Have you ever blown a bubble and watched it float away, shimmering like a tiny rainbow?
Well, what if I told you that some bubbles are more than just soap and water? What if they were filled with laughter? Let me tell you the story of a little girl named Nina and her amazing giggle bubbles. Little Nina loved blowing bubbles more than anything in the whole wide world.
More than ice cream on a hot day. More than jumping in puddles after it rained.
Every single morning, she would race to the park, her little bubble wand clutched tightly in her hand.
She'd carefully dip the wand into the soapy bowl, take a big, deep breath, and would...
A beautiful stream of shiny, wobbly bubbles would float up, up into the air.
They shimmered with all the colors of the rainbow pinks.
Blues, greens, and golds drifting gently across the green grass of the park.
It was Nina's favorite part of the day, watching her magical creations dance in the sunlight before popping into nothing. But one bright and sunny morning, something truly magical happened.
Something that would change Nina's bubbles forever.
As Nina dipped her wand and prepared for the first bubble of the day, she took an extra deep breath. She blew with all her might, creating the biggest, roundest bubble she had ever seen.
It wobbled in the air, perfect and shiny.
But then, as it floated just in front of her face, she heard something strange.
Ha-ha!
It was a tiny, tinkling giggle, like little bells ringing.
Nina blinked in surprise. She looked around.
There was no one else nearby. The park was quiet.
She looked back at the giant, shimmering bubble. Did you just giggle?
She whispered, feeling a little bit silly for talking to a bubble.
The bubble wobbled excitedly in the air and seemed to puff itself up with pride. Then it burst out with another, louder laugh.
Of course I did! I'm a giggle bubble!
The voice was sparkly and light, like fizzing lemonade.
Nina's eyes grew wide with wonder. A giggle bubble?
Before she could even ask what that was, a marvelous thing happened.
As she blew more bubbles, they all began to laugh. Tiny little bubbles let out soft, sweet chuckles.
The big, round ones boomed with deep, hearty belly.
And even the smallest, most delicate bubbles that popped almost instantly let out tiny squeaks of joy.
Soon, the air around Nina was filled not just with bubbles, but with a symphony of happy, bubbly laughter. It was the most wonderful sound she had ever heard. These weren't just ordinary bubbles anymore. They were alive with joy. The giggle bubbles didn't just float aimlessly. They had a mission. They danced and bounced around the park looking for people to share their happiness with.
One bubble, a particularly mischievous one, with a deep ho-ho-ho laugh, floated right over to a bench where a grumpy old man was sitting. He was frowning at his newspaper, his eyebrows all scrunched up.
The bubble floated down, 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 and landed right on the tip of his nose.
Hee. It giggled, and then...
Pop, a tiny splash of soapy water and a big dose of laughter made the man's nose twitch. He let out a giant sneeze. Achoo!
He tried his best to keep his grumpy frown, but a little smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. He couldn't help it. He let out a small chuckle. Another bubble, a gentle one, with a soft, warm ha-ha-ha drifted over to a tired mother sitting on the grass. She was watching her children play, but her face was full of worry.
The bubble landed softly on the back of her hand and burst with its quiet laugh. Suddenly, her shoulders relaxed.
She took a deep breath, and a real, genuine smile spread across her face. The little wrinkles of worry seemed to fade away. Soon, the park was filled with magic. Children stopped their games to chase after the floating, giggling spheres of joy. Their own laughter mixed with the bubbles' giggles, creating a beautiful chorus that rang through the trees. The whole park, once quiet and calm, was now buzzing with pure, simple happiness.
Nina stood in the middle of it all, clapping her hands with delight.
She looked at the cloud of laughing bubbles floating around her and asked, "Why are you all laughing so much?"
1,000 tiny, sparkling voices chimed together, sounding like wind chimes in a gentle breeze.
"Because joy is meant to be shared."
Day!
Ishang! Laughter is lighter than air. It floats from one heart to another, making everyone feel happy. Nina finally understood.
Her bubbles weren't just for her to enjoy alone.
They were little messengers of happiness.
From that day on, Nina's bubbles were never just ordinary bubbles again.
They were always giggle bubbles, Tiny, floating gifts of happiness that could turn the gloomiest of faces into the brightest of smiles. Every morning, without fail, Nina went to the park with her bubble wand and her special soapy mixture.
With each and every breath she blew, she wasn't just making bubbles.
She was sending more laughter, more joy, and more happiness out into the world.
And you know who was always there, waiting for her?
The grumpy old man. He would pretend to be reading his newspaper, but Nina could see him secretly watching, hoping a giggle bubble would drift his way and land on him again. And it always did.
At night, when Nina was all tucked into her bed, she would look at her bubble wand resting on her nightstand.
She'd whisper to it,
"Thank you for helping me make people happy today." And even though the bubbles were all gone until morning, if she listened very
closely, she was sure she could hear a soft, tiny little giggle in reply, waiting for the sun to rise again.
And the lesson of Nina and her giggle bubbles is a simple but beautiful one. Laughter is a gift. It's a magical thing that spreads happiness wherever it goes. And just like Nina's bubbles, it's even more magical when you share it with others. So next time you feel a laugh bubbling up inside you, let it out. You never know whose day you might brighten. Thank you so much for listening to our story today. If you enjoyed Nina's adventure, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more wonderful tales. We love sharing stories with you. See you next time.